Within a constantly changing world, the theme of peace and security is a vital topic. For us, peace and security is associated with unity, and unity lies within erasing, restraining boundaries and borders. Our exhibition focuses on artists who challenge the dominant perception of what constitutes art. We focus on the theme of unity and erasing borders of all kinds. Salvador Dali was a pioneer of the surrealism movement. In his persistence of memory, he vanquishes the borders between real and surreal. We accept the world of the persistence of memory because of its naturalistic technique, even though we notice that the elements within the image are impossible. He plays with our minds in a sense that what we see as familiar we accept to be true. In such a way, he blurs the boundaries between realism and surrealism. Merritt Oppenheim does the same thing, but this time blurring the boundaries between surrealism and the Dadaist ready-made. What we see in the object is real, but at the same time is fantastical. She also plays with the viewer's senses by covering a tea set in animal fur and testing what our culture will or will not accept as usable or normal. Therefore, Oppenheim interacts with both our visual and physical senses. Duchamp's Fountain is a great example of Dadaism art. The artist brings up an idea of anti-art through using a ready-made object. By relocating a urinal into a museum environment, Duchamp gives it a new meaning, even stating that art is something you piss on. He is breaking the preconceived notions about art, saying that art can take on any form, whether it was created solely by the artist or manufactured elsewhere. He blurs the lines between the Dadaist ready-made, anti-art, and conceptual art. Smithson's Spiral Jetty is an enormous earthwork in the shape of a spiral built on the northeastern shore of the Great Salt Lake. In this work, Smithson is rejecting a common notion that a landscape must be painted. His goal is to prove that a landscape can be created literally, and his main tool is time. Over time, the earthwork interacts with its environment, a relationship that blurs the boundaries between art and nature. Therefore, by introducing a new method of interacting with a landscape, Smithson breaks the boundaries between a painted landscape and a created one. In this untitled piece, Lee Bonteque is combining sculptures and paintings. She is challenging our perception of a painting and how a piece can be understood differently due to the viewer's location and perspective. If this piece is hanging on the wall, Bonteque is expecting us to think of it as a painting. However, when we step to the side, we realize that the piece is actually three-dimensional and can be considered a sculpture. Therefore, Bonteque is re-examining art forms by writing them in one piece. By depicting comic book-like images on a big-scale canvas, Roy Lichtenstein is saying that low art can be elevated to the status of fine art and can be equal to it. In this way, Roy Lichtenstein is blurring the boundaries between low art and fine art. Similarly, Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec did the same with Le Goulou, but this time within Art Nouveau. He introduced a new understanding of art as advertising. Therefore, he elevated low art to fine art. Andy Warhol was a pop artist who often left his audience guessing what the meaning was behind his artwork. In Campbell's Soup Cans, Warhol appropriated images prevalent in popular culture and mass media into his artwork, in a surrealistic, minimalistic aesthetic. He combines features of pop art with aesthetics of minimalism. And because images of soup cans are so banal and mundane, and are repeated so copiously, he too combines low art with the status of fine art by depicting those images on a big-scale canvas. Warhol also works with the theme of semiotics by collapsing the sign and signifier and blurring the lines between them. Oldenburg was an artist who helped develop the theme of semiotics. He also follows the technique of Dali by depicting hyperrealism in his artwork. Due to the hyperrealism of the huge sculpture of a hamburger, the viewer faces a challenge. At first he sees quite a realistic hamburger. However, its size, location, and material composition make it clear that it is not a real hamburger. He leaves us questioning whether or not his artwork can actually be called a hamburger. He too blurs the lines between sign and signified. What is important about Joseph Kosuth's work, One in Three Chairs, is that he takes the idea of semiotics explored by Oldenburg and brings it to a whole new level of exploration, submerging the viewer fully into the theme. Joseph Kasuth presents his viewer with three objects: a real chair, a picture of a chair, and a dictionary definition of a chair. He therefore poses a question of how we understand what a chair is, how did we learn what a chair is, and leaves the answer to his viewer. He muddies the distinctions between all these dimensions of a chair. Our goal was to find an alternative exploration of the theme of peace and security. By referring to artists of the 20th century, we argue that peace and security lies within the unification of different factions. We applied this philosophy to the different fields of art to provide an example of how unification has already taken place in at least one area, and how it has improved and strengthened the world of art as a whole. Should the notion of reducing boundaries be applied to opposing factions of the human race, much like it has been applied to the varying schools of art, we imagine the world will know peace.